Welcome back to the Nurturist Pod, everyone. We got Scott Atwood with us here today. Super excited to dive into a little bit more about your career, how you got into digital marketing and design, and just get to know you a little bit better, man. How are things going for you?
Doing very well. Actually in a pretty slow time right now, which is both good and bad. It's been busy for past 10 years, so to have a bit of slow time is pretty nice.
Sounds like it. So it looks like are you running your own marketing agency at the moment?
Yeah, so really 7 years ago or so, I was in finance out of college. I had an e-commerce side hustle at the time, and it was making pretty good money. It was nothing crazy, but definitely was making more than 10K a year in net profit. And eventually, it
Nice.
got to the point where my the company that I was working for in finance gave me an ultimatum to move to Michigan, which wasn't in the cards for me at the time, or leave with severance. And I left and continued on e-commerce and eventually built up a little accelerator with a handful of brands, and it took off from there. So never
Nice,
never
man.
looked back after that.
That's crazy. Michigan, were they moving out there as the company, or
Yeah, they
that seems
were.
like a weird ultimatum. They're just like, hey, you're moving to Michigan or you're done.
Yeah, so it was a big
Huh.
logistics company, and they had offices that were like 50% office space, 50% warehouse terminal space, and the warehouse was
Hmm.
underperforming, so they cut the whole building. The lease was gone. This was well pre-COVID, so everyone was in office, and they were like, "Your best next desk is in Michigan," which was just crazy.
Yikes. And where are you calling in from? Where were you at in the moment?
So I'm in the Fort Lauderdale, Florida
Okay.
area from Boston. That's actually where I met Danny from One Text, and yeah,
Super cool, man. No, that's fun. So, is you guys met in Boston? Did you guys go to school together then?
yeah, we went to high school together,
Oh, no way.
and my friend group really had just a inkling for entrepreneurship or similar practices. Everyone was trying to start a business, not successfully,
Yeah.
and a bunch of different stuff. Eventually, it all worked out for a handful of us, but there was a lot of failed attempts as well too.
Dude, that is crazy. That's super cool that you guys have that or had that friend group though that all was super interested in starting your own thing. I think that's um, kind of hard to come by. I mean, on Twitter specifically, like it's definitely, I feel like people are more open to the idea. People talk about it a lot more, and it makes this seem almost as if it's the norm, even though in your typical day to day, it's really not. Like the people you come into contact with, like, um, typically don't have that mindset. So that's awesome, man. That's super cool. You guys had that friend group from the start.
Yeah.
Um, but no, man, that's crazy. So you had this e-commerce store going on the side. They give you the ultimatum. You're like, you know what? Severance taken. Let's do this thing. Tell me a little bit more about that journey once you decided to go all in on e-commerce.
Yeah, I think at the time I was making decent salary. I had saved up some money and whatnot. I had worked throughout my entire life, always, even if it was hourly jobs and whatnot, always
Mhm.
worked, always saved money and whatnot. I'm not from a family of means per se, but, saved myself and was really scrappy with a lot of projects and things that I did. And I just felt, I was in my early 20s, mid 20s at the time. And I was like, you know what? I think I have, what it takes to hold on for a while. I think I have enough saved to, pay some expenses for a while. And the business was bringing in a decent amount, just doing, an hour a day of work. So I was like,
Wow.
you know what? At the end of the day, keep the expenses low, quit, take a shot. You know, I didn't really have a timeline on, if I ever went back when it would be, but I knew eventually if it wasn't working that I'd say, hey, 9 months. If it's not working in 9 months, then go back. But to be honest, it just took off so quickly once I had, more time that I kid you not, went from, 30K revenue Months to like 150K, 200K, like overnight. So
No way.
it was pretty
That
crazy.
is crazy. So you were typically putting in about an hour's worth of work while you were doing this other job, but once you were able to go in, about how much would you say you were working per day to scale it to that type of revenue?
Yeah, I would say probably like 60, 70 hours a week.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
it depends. To me, a lot of it wasn't work too. At the time, I was drop shipping because honestly, Facebook ads were so cheap. Really, you could sell anything and get away
Yeah.
with it. Like you could pick any product you want, pick out of a hat and sell it and get a 3 ROAS if you're somewhat decent at paid ads and, build a somewhat holistic brand. So
Nice,
just
man.
worked out well, and I had a good system, honestly, and it just took off.
That's so cool. I'm curious, what was the first product?
I sold a lot of apparel, but a lot of it again was drop shipping,
Okay.
and it's so tough when you're drop shipping because obviously, it's 14 days for, a customer to get something, 20 days, whatever it is, and you
Yeah.
can't really build a brand. And honestly, at the time, I was kind of looking for like your classic get rich quick or quick fixes. I've learned over the years that that never pans out well,
Right.
and do not go for that. And there's really no such thing as get rich quick. Even if something's going well, you know if it's not built with a good foundation, it'll fall apart. So it
No,
took
that's
a while to learn some of those lessons for sure.
right, but you wouldn't learn them otherwise. Like I think that's super important that you're always trying out new things and testing things. So I think I have a lot of respect that you were able to go out there, build these businesses, even if it wasn't a long-term thing, but take the good things that you were able to learn with it and turn to something long-term for you. So
Exactly.
um so is that kind of what transitioned you into the marketing agency, just where you had the experience building these different drop shipping sites and brands, you kind of pivoted and took it from there.
Yeah, so some of those brands, even some of the leaders too, over time, what I started doing was I had like 200 SKUs, which was far too many. But I would start going like 10 SKUs at a time, bringing them in house. It was a
Mm.
total pain. But actually, I was living in Denver at the time, and I would get inventory shipped to my house. The UPS guys definitely were like, "What is this?" My whole
Yeah.
basement was just filled with t-shirts, like shelves stocked side to side, and we'd get like local college kids and whatnot to come pack orders in our basement. uh, it was a good time for sure. And then slowly just phased into full inventory. It took a while, but it's, just a slow, steady investment from there. And then eventually sold off, some of those brands like 2.5 years ago. Not for a crazy amount, but you can't complain about any exit and
Not at all.
in any liquidity event or cash event. So sold a few brands and then, really have been looking for the next thing. But in the meantime, I've gotten the opportunity to work with some really cool brands that are, earlier stages or whatever, and help them in the early stages with their go to market plan, their marketing plan just in general, and, kind of those first steps of growth. And I've been helping tons of brands with that over the past, 12, 18 months.
Wow. No, that's super fun. So has it been more of like a consultancy gig, per se, more
Yeah.
than an actual like marketing agency?
Yeah. Honestly,
Okay.
I had applied to some brands just part-time. I didn't really know what I wanted to do after, kind of closing, selling, sunsetting all my brands and whatnot. I
Hmm.
honestly had a little bit of a cash stockpile and whatnot, wasn't doing poorly financially per se. And I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, maybe I'll find a brand that's early stages, see if I can get, an hourly gig for, a decent hourly gig and kind of prove myself and work my way up within there because obviously, brands would be excited to have anyone that, has done it themselves and made millions in
Absolutely.
revenue. So I felt like that was a good fit. And then honestly, over time, I don't even use my Twitter or anything. My Twitter is more of a spectator sport. I
Yeah.
love searching through, but don't use it too much. But eventually, word got around that I was just, helping brands with growth, and I started getting a bunch of referrals that were just like, hey, they're looking for some help with their marketing. You know, would you be willing to come in? Still looking for a brand that I believe in, that I can get a good amount of equity in and kind of champion. I've had
Yeah.
some close opportunities, but not the perfect one yet.
Gotcha. I'm just curious now, what's that perfect opportunity look like for you? Like specifically when you're looking for these brands, obviously where you have done it before, like what are those key factors for you when joining a company?
I think well funded is relatively nice, just even from the standpoint that I've worked with some brands that are, very low budget, and it's super tough to manufacture anything because at the end of the day, like, you need at least a little something to get started.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be 100K, but something to, get the wheels turning. So that's been a struggle, is just some of those smaller brands just don't have the resources and whatnot. So one that's a little bit more funded, but still at the point where, they're not a 20 plus person team. They're just getting that funding or close to funding and really, getting ready to go to that next level. Or I might build it myself. I have a couple brands in stealth mode that I'm working on or with. So excited to see how that plays out.
Nice, man. No, that's exciting. Exciting times for sure. Just coming out of a couple exits, got some cash in your pockets. So it's like, yeah, what's this next opportunity? That's super fun, man.
Exactly.
I'm excited to see where you end up and what you end up doing for sure. So, well, sweet, man. I obviously super happy to have you here, and I just want to dive a little bit more into what kind of brought you to this moment in your life, where you have been able to exit two successful brands. I mean, an exit's an exit, like you said, puts cash in your pocket, and I think that's what a ton of people would be super happy to be in your shoes. So yeah, just kind of diving more into your high school experience, what kind of brought you all the way to this point, and what's really been like those changing factors and moments for you in your life. So, just diving into it, I know I asked you a few questions before the podcast, and you mentioned that you were more social, but you played sports in high school. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always, even with sports and whatnot, had a really competitive mindset. I'm a little bit harsh on myself and obsessive sometimes, where it's like, it's never enough and you're always going for the next thing. And even once you accomplish the goal, it's like, all right, what's next? Not taking a break for better or for worse. That's been how it's been a lot of the past 10, 15 years. But I
Yeah.
like competition. I like, having a hypothesis or setting out for a goal and then achieving it and seeing the progress towards that. I think at the end of the day, the progress has been, a lot of the most fun and a lot of what I remembered the most, not really the end goal being accomplished.
Gotcha. And I think it's Gary Vee who talks about it, just being able to enjoy that journey of progression and not necessarily like just chasing that end result. I think that's so well said. Like progression, it's super important, obviously, to be able to grow or do anything in life. You need to have that. So really being able to enjoy that process of the growing pains of failures
Yeah.
is super important. So no, I love that, man. And I think sports definitely teaches you that for sure, because you're not always gonna win the game. You're not always gonna have your best game or performance. And so being able to deal with those failures as well, and getting better is super important.
Yeah, I think on top of that too, it teaches a lot of discipline. Like between high school and college, I was a captain for 4 of my 8 years, and even with that, it's like one, you're a figurehead, and two, you need to be really disciplined. Like I ran cross country and track all of college, and like there's really no getting away with, half effort,
Yeah.
and it's super hard. Like if you're eating something crappy or staying up late or doing anything wrong, it's gonna show and it's gonna hurt. So
Yeah.
you just learn some discipline. Also, you learn, you have those goals that you set out, and you're like, all right, it's 3 months. Let me go into just really hardcore focus mode. And I think that again helps a lot too, because sometimes even in business when things are going poorly, it's like, all right, it's not the best right now, but let's set aside 3 months to go into that, hardcore monk mode that everyone calls it. And I like doing
Right.
that sometimes too.
No, that's awesome. What events did you compete in through high school and college?
Long distance for
Okay.
cross country and
Whew.
track. And yeah, it was painful. 5Ks, 10Ks. I was miling high school. I was fast enough for someone to say like, "Wow, that's really fast," but still
Mhm.
too slow. Still too slow to, you know, be an elite D1 athlete. So somewhere in between.
Did No, I can only imagine running a long distance. So the fact that people were calling you fast still is huge to me. Like, dude, I don't know. It's so funny to me because I played football, baseball, and running was always like a punishment. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
Over the course of the last year, I've been trying to get into running, dude, and it is tough. Just like mentally flipping that switch and saying like, no, this is like I'm gonna go do this for enjoyment and obviously for the cardio. But yeah, it's been tough. So a ton of respect, dude. That's impressive.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I played a lot of the other sports, and it's definitely one of the toughest. Like it's just mentally and physically grueling. Because even when you get, your PR and when you get faster, you're like,
Hmm.
I just ran so fast that made me sick. And then now next time I need to go out and do better. Like, how am I going
Right.
to do this? So
I'm sure it's super daunting. Like, dude, I just crushed that record. Yeah. Now I know that I have to go and beat it. So it's kind of like that ending game that you are playing with yourself to always progress and get better, which at the end of the day, that's what matters, right? Is that you're pushing yourself to those limits. So no, dude, I
yeah,
think that's super cool how you've been able to relate your experiences through high school and college to your business and keep progressing. So that's super fun. And then you also mentioned that they're friends. Friends was definitely your priority in high school. Being a social guy playing sports, I'm sure that was the case. But I guess tell me a little bit more about. I mean, obviously, you had this great friendship. You had this great friend group of people who had a lot of similar interests. But tell me a little bit more about how you guys kind of like became friends and what that relationship looks like now.
yeah, I think a lot of my friends that I've always had have always just been driven, which again, they're driven, they're competitive. And also I think they're, leaders and somewhat self-motivated, which is great. And I think a lot of times, they're of the mindset that, hey, I'll try whatever it is. If I don't do it well, I'm just going to keep trying until I figure it out. And I think that is relatively motivational to you too, because obviously, if your friends are succeeding in a bunch of stuff and you see them just continuously working out, doing whatever, it motivates you to be better as well too. And on top of that, it just gives you a good support system to ask questions. Like a lot of the times, I find that my network helps me so much even now with business because for the most part, if I have a question or someone asks me of a question or, I need a certain resource, I know the person to reach out to get, help from. If I need a graphic designer, I know to reach out to this person. If I need this, that, the other thing, I reach out to that person. So it's good having that support group and, being surrounded by like-minded individuals because it just pushes you to be a better person.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think I mean, obviously it's important for us nowadays as we're adults in our careers, but I think even more so in high school, man, because that's really when you're shaping who you are and what you want to become. And so being able to find those like-minded people who are driven, I think at a younger age is even that much more important. And so sounds like you were able to find that good group and they were able to kind of push you throughout the years and help get you where you are today. So,
Yeah,
um,
and I think on top of that too, even I went to a all guys high school. I feel like
oh no
that
way.
helped because you just focus so much more. People are like, "Did you hate it?" And I'm like, "No, you focus so much more. It's such a vital, part or time in life
Yeah.
because, even if you're not going to college, you want to be set up for your, post high school career. If you are going to college, it's obviously a great time to get great grades and then, put a name on the resume for the rest of your life. Um, so it's such a good time to focus and really focus on your development. And then on top of that, our high school required, I forget what the rule was, but required extracurriculars. Didn't necessarily need to be sports, but required that you do something after school, a certain percentage of the year. So you had to be involved in arts or sports or something. And just having those, practices or hobbies or competitions, whatever it might be, I think again, pushes you outside your comfort level and pushes you to be a more well-rounded person and academic, really.
No, absolutely. I think, yeah, no, that's super unique going to an all guys high school. Tell me a little bit more about that because I'm not super familiar with the structure, how it works. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's pretty straightforward, all guys at the high school, right? But yeah, I guess, tell me a little bit more about how that impacted your high school, experiences, just being able to focus more on what you wanted to do moving forward into the future.
Yeah, I think in general, so I went to St. John's Prep, which is a all boys Catholic school in Danvers, Massachusetts. It was like 325 guys per grade. It was all day, but it is a private school, so you have to be accepted, and then you're driving in from wherever to get to school. Some communities had buses, but end of the day, I think it was really cool because it really pushes you outside your comfort zone. A lot of people are used to standard middle schools in their town or elementary schools in their town, co-ed, and then to go to this place where you probably only know five, maybe 10 people before going to the school. And to be pushed outside your comfort zone like that, where you're, being pushed as a person, not by, drama or,
Yeah.
Becky has a crush on whoever. Like none of that was a time sunk, and I think people could be themselves too, which is also great because a lot of people, there's weird sports and extracurriculars that the average person would look at it and be like, "That's ridiculous." But like we had a world class fencing team,
No
um,
way.
and it's just like everything people were good at, but it allowed people to be themselves and like you know understand who they are, and everything was competitive. So it was like no matter what, you have to step up your game in every aspect of life.
That's cool, man. Yeah, I guess for all you guys out there who are about to start high school, maybe look into to something like that. Or if you're a parent, like definitely is a good way to have your kid or whoever it may be level up in life. I'm sure it sounds like it was a great experience for you. So, well, sweet man. And I guess like out of high school, I know you said you were able to get into finance, and that's kind of what you planned on doing, like out of high school. What kind of was your interest there when you were leaving high school?
Yeah, so I think just leaving high school, like when I was looking at college, it was what colleges have the highest earning potential, which ones are going to set me up the best. I think my mindset of what would set you off the best was kind of not reality.
Yeah,
It's just the standard that everyone thinks of, like, hey, it's going to be, doctors, lawyers, finance, whatever it might be in those standard jobs. And I was pretty fixated on that. And just within business, I figured, hey, finance is going to be the highest earning. So let me go into finance, try and go that route and get into the rat race and try and climb just because I was like, oh, that's where the money is.
yeah, for sure. And I think no, you hit it right on the head. That's where a lot of people focus their time or think they want to focus their time just because that has the highest earning potential per se. Unless you're able to create something for yourself. So what did you kind of have those expectations? Like, was that you yourself telling you, hey, this is what I want to go do and accomplish? Or was it more of like maybe your parents or your friends who through conversation were like, hey, no, this is what you should do?
Yeah, no, I don't think it was necessarily me. I think even if I said I did, I think it was just because of like the outside noise and, perceptions and whatnot. My dad's a pretty academic guy. I'm not from like a crazy wealthy family, but there's, expectations on me to succeed just across my family. And I think that's like the traditional, image of success. So it just was like, hey, let's go for this and try to be a big macho finance guy.
Right. No, for sure. I think, no, it's definitely a very normal thing, I think, for kids to have that pressure, whether it's from external uh, sources, whether it's from like friends, family, your parents, whoever it may be. And yeah, it's kind of hard to go against what those expectations may be. So, if you had to give yourself one piece of advice, for yourself, like whether it was through high school or leaving high school, what would that piece of advice be?
I think a couple things, honestly. I think one, just not listening to those people and kind of, marching to my own beat. It's really tough for someone who's, 18 years old to uh, tell their parents that they want to do certain things, or, we have this pressure where we're like, hey, we're going to let down this person, or, I'm going to get judged by my peers because I'm not going into the normal spots. But at the end of the day, like, college, I think, is great for some people, but it's not for everyone. I think, finance is a great, really challenging career path, but it's not for everyone. And I wish I had known that and just thought of other options. Because I don't know if I would change my path or anything, but I'd certainly, consider. And knowing what I know now, I love what I do. I love my life. So I'm like, I can't beat it, but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe that was the journey. And then I think the other thing too would just to be like get in the game earlier. I think for like first time founders or people who want to create a side hustle or even just like level up at your job, just like start now. Even if you're learning a skill, you're learning how to code, you're doing whatever, it it might not be lucrative today, but just like chase those things, learn, I wish I had heard that first Shopify ding earlier in my life because right once I heard that, I would have caught the fever 5 years earlier and just gotten ahead of things. But you can't, I don't really regret anything, but
Right.
if I were to do things, I'd give a shot earlier because even it's not like I needed financing to get my business started. It was like, sell one t-shirt, take the product, the profits, reinvest it, maybe take the tiniest cut and then just keep doing that and multiply it over and over and over until, you've got inventory, you've got software, you've got people working for you, etc. But it's it's tough if you don't take that first step and so many people are like, well, I need to do the research on this, that, the other thing. That's great if you're a second time founder and you've already had one successful business. But if it's your first time, just like get that first sale, like, put yourself out there. And even if you don't want to be in business, just like do something. If you want to learn guitar, sign up for that first lesson. Like, we only have one life. So just start those things now and don't regret that you didn't start it 10 years later.
No, dude, I absolutely love that. I think it's so important for people just to try things, get out of your comfort zone, go explore different options that maybe you think, yeah, maybe, I don't know, Sally or whoever it is are telling you it's, oh, you shouldn't do that. You're not going to be able to make any money because I think it's so crazy nowadays how many different ways that people are able to make money from specific little niches
Oh yeah.
that like maybe 5, 10 years ago, you would have never thought that Steve, who's selling what fishing poles or something, is making millions of dollars
It's a
from posting TikToks every day, right? So, yeah, I think that's super important, especially when you are young to go and take those risks, try new things, and really figure out what you love and what you're passionate about. So, no, I think that was super well said.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, worst case, if you take that risk and it fails, like I've failed a bunch of times and it might seem bad in the moment, but there's nothing that's happened in my life that, you know, I've been torn over that's ruined my life. Like I've had hundreds of thousands of dollars held by Stripe and PayPal. And
Oh,
that seemed like the end of the world logging on to see $100,000 locked up. But at the end of the day, take it day by day. Like you'll be all right.
for sure. I love that, man. Well, sweet. I think that's it for me. I appreciate you hopping on and diving into a little bit more about your story. And where can people find you at? What are your socials, your LinkedIn, your Twitter?
Yeah.
If people
So
want to give you a follow.
my Twitter and Instagram are Scott with three T's, Atwood, Atwood. I have LinkedIn too. Honestly, haven't been on Twitter that much, but need to. I get yelled at by everyone. They're like, get on Twitter, but I'm like, I'm just
Yeah.
building. I'm just building on my own. So, what do I need Twitter for? But it is good. You meet some great people on there, and I do gotta step up my game.
All
And
good,
then
man. Hey,
on top of that, launching a new agency website here pretty soon. Honestly, going to be pretty one-to-one with my clients.
nice.
But that will be 113-media.com. So
Nice,
excited
man.
to just have a formal website up and whatnot, not have a mystery lurking in the shadows.
Yeah. No, I'm excited. I'm excited for the launch. Can you share when that's launching, or is it kind of
Yeah,
in stealth mode right now?
yeah, looking at like a month from now, maybe 3 weeks, we're moving pretty quick on everything, but really trying to get systems set up, trying to get some media buyers in the background and whatnot, and some developers for some Shopify build outs,
Oh, there you
get
go.
some email marketers ready to go. So at the end of the day, we can take some decent sized clients. And also, I really love having that personal touch for clients. So trying to build out a way where, it's not really as much of an agency, it's a partnership.
I love that, dude. I think it's a really good approach because at the end of the day, everyone wants to be treated like a human. You want to have that one-on-one interaction. So being able to have that is huge, and I'm sure it'll be a huge competitive advantage for you guys versus the other guys. So
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you need someone who cares about your business at the end of the day, and it's tough to find someone who cares about the business as much as the business owner. So if we can provide more of that and, provide those almost internal resources, then, I'll be happy.
sweet, man. Well, sounds good. Okay, well, I appreciate you hopping on, man. You have a good one. We'll keep
You
in
as
touch.
well, and talk soon.
Sounds good. See
Thanks,
ya.
Zach.